We're here with Gareth from Deckbound. I can talk, I promise. So Deckbound is probably the biggest game on show here. I have to say, when you walk in, when you walk in, it's right in the center of the room, and apart from a giant Warhammer spider, this is the biggest thing here. So tell us about Deckbound.
Sure, yeah, so Deckbound is two things. It's a platform for digital trading cards, and it's a series of games based on that same platform. So the game we're showing at the moment is Deckbound Heroes, which is a turn-based multiplayer strategy game. We also have a game called Deckbound Quest, which is a single-player dungeon explorer, which we'll be previewing over the coming weeks. And yeah, they're based on this single platform that we built called Deckbound, which allows you to play the same cards in multiple games, allows you to trade cards independently and do a variety of other things. We are providers of the platform itself. We do that publicly, so other people can integrate with our platform and provide games on top of that. And also we make the games that we're releasing on top of that.
Yeah. So there's a heavy emphasis on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
What sparked that idea? How did that come about?
So it's we've based the card issue on the Bitcoin blockchain. So it's not Bitcoin the currency, but the technology that underpins Bitcoin, which is the blockchain. We actually use that to issue cards, and we're using the same blockchain that the Bitcoin currency uses. So from a stability point of view, that gives it a pretty stable base to operate on top of. That came about primarily through my interests in the cryptocurrency space and the blockchain space. I've been a game developer for quite a long time, and I was working on contracting projects at the time, and in my spare time I was doing tinkering around with blockchain things and Bitcoin and various other bits and bobs, and started to play around with the idea of using it for tracking ownership, and the fact that you could follow transactions around a public ledger and things like that.
Yeah.
And that really kind of sparked something off with thinking about video game assets and player ownership. Player ownership in the video game space isn't really something that has ever been addressed.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about owning things, but really you don't actually ever own things.
If you look at a contract, you don't even own a games console, for example. They're just permanently leased.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a big thing for me, because I've put a lot of time and effort personally into playing games that are of a collectible nature, particularly those with a strategy skills-based focus. And the idea of not being able to take the analog, whether it's Magic the Gathering or something else, equivalent of your great big stack of cards, and do whatever you want to do with them. The fact that there isn't a way to translate that into the digital space was a thing that I was starting to think about. And over the period of about 6 months, these things kind of came together. I'd conceived of some trading card games previously and on various points in the past, and started to play around with the idea of, well, what about if, instead of just using it to track ownership, what if the actual things were on the blockchain itself?
Right.
So I spent some time trying to work that out, and conceived of a technology which is called Bitbind, which is also a public thing that we effectively provide, which deals with this issue of tagging transactions to represent digital assets.
Yeah.
It's got a bit of a consumer focus. There's lots of other technologies out there that are more focused around things like finance and business to business. Bitbind's more consumer focused, and it allows you to create an asset as an originator. So us as Deckbound, for example, we can create Deckbound named cards, but then they're issued on the blockchain, so anyone can verify that they are Deckbound cards, but they're not reliant on us to move those around or trade them or give them to their friend or whatever. So yeah, that's what we did. We're not expecting that everyone is going to need to know about or even care about the blockchain backend. And as a player of Deckbound games, when we go live with the card inception stuff in June, you'll have provided effectively a wallet service as part of our user management system. So if you're completely oblivious to the blockchain piece, you go on, you buy some cards from us, you keep them in your collection, you play some games with them, and you never know any different. But if you do want to control them yourself, then you can export those cards from our system and save them somewhere else.
Right.
And at that point, we're completely out of control of what you do with those things.
Burn them all.
So we have a bit, part of the Bitbind tech will follow where those cards are.
Right.
So we would know who owns them if they publicly state who they are. They could go somewhere and we not have a player account attached to it. But if you've got a player account, you say, okay, I've moved my cards here, and our system keeps track of that, so that we know when you start a game with those cards, it is actually you who owns them at that time. But yeah, you're completely right. You could very easily say, okay, I don't want these cards anymore, and you could destroy them, or you could destroy the keys or something like that. So we have to be quite sensitive representative of people knowing what they're doing if they do that. So it'll be a pretty advanced feature of the platform for people to do that. But we're also working with third-party providers in the cryptocurrency space who provide general-purpose wallets for storing cryptocurrencies. You'll be able to use them to store your Deckbound cards.
Right.
And it's also important to point out that because of the Bitbind-Deckbound relationship, you can also create your own things on the Bitbind platform.
Right.
So if you're making your own game and you wanted to issue your own cards, you could do that directly on Bitbind. You're not reliant on Deckbound in any way for doing that. It's a public service. But we're kind of encouraging people to build things off of the Deckbound platform because we can do that effectively as a free service. We can provide all this back-end infrastructure, which is quite expensive to get that up and running. People can use that, and ultimately, if they're playing with Deckbound cards, we make some money out of that because we sell the cards in the first place.
So you mentioned it takes money to build that infrastructure. What about time-wise? So how long did you? How long has this? So this is currently in alpha.
Yeah.
But what was the moment where you went, yes, Deckbound is something we're going to make?
So 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, January 2 years, so 2 years and 2 months ago, I decided that I was going to do this. At the time, it wasn't called Deckbound. It wasn't definitely digital trading card games, though it was a platform to provide for them. I was doing contracting work at the time, worked for hire projects in the games industry, so I wound those up over a period of about 6 months and started to work on it in my own time. So about 18 months ago, I formally started the business, took on some employees, a couple of people who'd worked for me previously, and started working on it. I quite quickly got to the point of having Bitbind up and running, so that was September 2014. Bitbind was up and running, and I'd primarily done that myself at that point. The people brought on were to do the game stuff, and then when we got to January of last year, 2015, we'd hit the ground running with the Heroes game, which was originally going to be I guess like a proof of concept. It's not really the right term, but a proof of viability for the technology. We had ambitions for bigger games, but we thought, well, actually, it'd probably be better if we just have something super simple that demonstrates how you might use this in a game. Which is one of the reasons why it's web-based, actually. It's all WebGL based.
Yes, that's actually a good point. It is all based on the Webernet. So it does mean that there's no it also means that it's very efficient in the sense that you don't need a super powerful PC to run it.
No, we demo it on Chromebooks sometimes.
Chromebooks?
It'll run on anything. It's actually more constrained by the support for modern browsers, not the hardware of the machine. So on mobile, you need to have a pretty modern mobile device, but that's not because they need the power. It's just that it's only the modern ones that support the better browsers. But that's okay. We're not targeting mobile too much with this. You can play it on a phone if you want, but like an iPhone 5S and up kind of spec, or a Nexus 4, Nexus 5, that kind of Android side spec. Anyway, point is, it does work everywhere. The reason we chose WebGL was, it was kind of cool to do it, I guess. It's kind of nice being able to have a browser-based game that does game things, but primarily it was so that we could show off the public aspect of the APIs and the services behind it, because there's no better demonstration of how to use a public API than letting someone else see your code. And the nice thing about a browser-based game, although I don't think everyone would say this, is that you can see all of the code. So you can just go and dig in and see how it's working. And it's quite convenient for us because it's a bit easier to iterate on the back end when we're just using a web-based client. Quest, the second game, is a Unity-based game, and that's a bit more work for us. Getting that integrated with the back end, it takes more time to debug things and get things up and running and that kind of stuff. But it gives us more flexibility in terms of the graphical power of the game. So so Heroes was going to be just this proof of concept thing. So I put together a really basic version of it, which I said this the other day, but I am going to check. It's not dissimilar to what you've played now. I'm sure when I look at it, it'll be like, oh no, actually it's not that similar. But the actual core
the fundamentals,
is the same thing. It's the occupy outposts, reduce health kind of thing is all there. So we started to test that out, and people responded really well to it. So we thought, actually, maybe we should just make this the first game. So we started on that, and then last year did a bunch of consumer shows in Europe. Starting with Gamescom last year. It was the first big show we did. I think we did about 7 or 8 others in the UK and Europe. Maybe a few more than that, maybe 10. And we got a phenomenal response.
Right.
We've had a really fantastic response. So we've been giving out these release codes.
I've got one. Which reminds me, we're going to be giving one away as well.
Awesome, yeah.
Fun fact.
Great. So yeah, we've been giving these out at events, and we've had a fantastic conversion on those. People signing up for the closed alpha and then playing. That's now gone live. So we kind of went live with that in December, and then we pushed it out a bit harder in terms of invites and stuff in January. Just gone, and that's going really well. It's fantastic seeing people play and like rolling out new features and stuff like that. Especially as we're kind of moving towards June, which is our kind of, I guess, informal release date. It'll be the point at which we go from alpha to beta with Heroes. But I say beta is probably more like a general release. So multiplayer skills-based games is a fine line.
Yeah, there's
a general release. So, but that's the point at which the card inception system will be live. So when you buy cards, you'll be able to play those cards you bought in the game directly. It'll be the point at which trading is available, so you'll have to trade with other players. And it'll be the point at which we don't break anything in Heroes from that point forward. We've got a few things that we're going to experiment with over the next couple of months, but that'll be the sort of alpha beta differentiation. By that point, we're also hoping to have the first playable version of Deckbound Quest available as well. I'm pretty sure that will happen. We've got a couple of external factors to that we're not completely in control of, and I'm pretty sure that will happen as well, which would be nice because that'll demonstrate the cross-game play thing very well, and you can see the cards being played in multiple games.
So you currently have Heroes and Quests. Are there any secret plans in the works? And what?
There is a big secret plan, but given that it's secret, I'm not going to tell you about it. But
God damn it! It's always worth asking. Always worth asking.
If you ask us again in August, we'll be able to tell you about our secret plan. Maybe even before that. But we will be announcing a third game in August, which is probably the big game. I don't know for want of a better term. I mean, it's awesome the response we get to Heroes, but if you were to define them in terms of the genre that they're in, or the type of response they might get from a competitive gameplay point of view, that's the one that's a big deal. So we just went into sort of technical prototyping with that. So in August we'll be announcing it, and we'll show sort of first content, and then hopefully by the end of the year maybe have a technical preview available to people. It is a much bigger game, so time will tell as to where we're at with that in terms of specific dates, but we'll definitely announce in August.
Right, perfect. Is there anything you want to pimp in terms of website and Twitter and all of that?
So it's all Deckbound pretty much everywhere. So Twitter's Deckbound, Instagram, Facebook, they're all Deckbound. The website's deckbound.com. If you go there, if you sign up for the mailing list, we occasionally give out codes and things like that for the mailing list. At some point we'll start to push out invites to the alpha quite aggressively via the mailing list as well, so sign up for that. We do give away codes from time to time, so hook up with you guys, I'm sure we can get you a bunch of codes and things like that. And that's about it really.
Perfect.
We've got forums as well, which are linked off the website, matter.deckbound.com. That's all linked off the website.
Perfect. So I will see you guys in a couple of minutes when we run around and mess with something here and drink some more Rockstar because they're great. Thank you for having me, and have a great time, and I wish you the best of luck. It's definitely fun. I can't wait to sort of make my own deck and still fail miserably.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Very much. Cheers.